Good morning and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is a return to a feature of my channel, dungeon mastering tips and ideas that have worked. So recently, over the last couple of weeks, I've seen uh, some mentions about the art of improvising, and I wanted to go into a little bit about what I do and what I found works for me when I am improvising. So, if you're a new dungeon master or game master, or you're thinking about becoming a dungeon master or game master, I don't want you to be overly worried about having to improvise something, kind of go on the fly with something. I'm going to give you some tips that, again, I have found work for me. Um, I hope that they work for you, but maybe some of them won't. But you shouldn't be too concerned if your players choose to go in a different direction. Um, you're going to just take a pause, and I'm going to go through my step by step. But you're going to take a pause, you're going to think about it, and then you're going to create something on the fly. And the key components of that is to have it remain consistent with the setting that the player characters are in. And again, I'm going to go into more detail with it. Now, I've listened to other content creators out there on YouTube, um, sometimes suggesting, well, you know what, you can just take what you planned and move it to the direction that they went into. And and that's fine. Sometimes that may actually work, and so you're still keeping them the along your preparation path, what you've already prepared for the session. But I think the players might pick up on that, especially if they're experienced players. They might pick up on, well, this is not really what our player characters have decided that they're going to do. This is still something that has been planned, and it's kind of, sometimes it might be considered railroading or whatnot. Um, this will be particularly true if the player characters are moving along a path, and they know that their next objective is in this warehouse to the right, and they know where the warehouse is, because the player characters have generated a map of the town that they're in, and so they know the warehouse is to the right, but they decide they're going to go left instead for whatever reason. Well, let's see what's down this way first. And you can't just move that known location to the player characters to a different place. Um, they're they're gonna realize that has happened. Instead, what I'm suggesting is that you improvise, and I'm going to go through that step-by-step process that I use, and hopefully, like I said, you'll gain something from this. So, my step-by-step for improvising. First thing you're going to do when the players say they're going left instead of right, pause. All right, take a few minutes to think about the location and what might be found in that direction. And when I say think about the location, you're not just thinking about, well, they're going down an alleyway and everything. Think about the town that they're in, or the village, or whatever it is. Think about the types of encounters that would be consistent with their location, and utilize those. Oh, don't rely on, and I'm getting into number two now. Um, Decide on what will be encountered. Don't rely on random encounter tables. Now, I'm going to pause for a second and talk about random encounter tables. Many of these tables, especially in the old school, I'm not as familiar with 5e and its random encounter tables, but AD&D First Edition, the random encounter tables are dry as hell. I mean, it's just they're boring, they're lifeless, they're just not very well constructed. Um, there's no there's no layering to them. It's like, all right, you've encountered 4 to 24 goblins, and there's no other detail with it, or you've encountered a you know 6 dwarven merchants. All right, no flavor to it whatsoever, and then you've encountered an ancient red dragon in a totally different place, just totally out of place for where they might be. So I recommend that you don't rely on random encounter tables, especially wandering monster type tables. If you are, don't randomize it, choose something and start working it in, right? So rather than using those random encounters, you're going to layer an encounter with interesting aspects. Instead, you might even consider using a random treasure table, and I'm going to use that as an example. Now, again, the random treasure tables that are in the or in, like, let's say, the Dungeon Master's Guide of AD&D First Edition, again, we fall back into that. They're kind of dry and not very nuanced. They tend to be either very minuscule or tremendously valuable. All right. So again, I'm going to show you a different method for doing that. You want to start small and then build. So all of this is only taking a few moments. All right. As you are improvising, you might only make a roll on one table. Again, I'm going to demonstrate this. All right. So use a random treasure as an example. Build it up through descriptions. You're not just building up the story, but also the interest, all right, in this object or several objects, treasures that the player characters have discovered. The hook. So this is step 4. How are you going to grow that interest? Well, you've already started with the treasure. All right. There's one thing I know about players is that when their characters encounter treasure, no matter how small, they perceive it as a promise for more. All right. And so they're already engaged and it's like, oh, we found, you know, this small patch of treasure, but there's got to be something else. And they're going to keep on moving forward to continue to explore, which brings me to step 5. Movement, exploration, and discovery. Add to the encounter with movement, delving into a new area, discovering new story elements, and so on. You're going to constantly be layering this possible, very simple, randomized piece of treasure, and you're going to be layering it. You're going to have it generate the player characters having to move, explore, and discover even more. Step 6, challenge. There should always be some form of a challenge, but it doesn't have to be combat. So when I think about challenges for my player characters, what I think about is their character classes, some of their specific attributes, some of their specific abilities and spells and whatnot. And what I want to do for a challenge is I want to tap into as many of those as I can throughout the entire group. All right, so a challenge might begin with a thief having to unlock a door. All right. If the thief is unsuccessful, well, the fighter will have the means of knocking the door down. That sound is going to, you know, perhaps create some kind of a reaction from those that are within hearing shot of the door being smashed in. The magic user might have instead used a silence 15-foot radius around the door the before the fighter smashed the door in. See how it's using several different abilities from different characters in order to um, create a challenge. All right, and haven't even gotten into combat yet. They're just doing that. Finally, not finally. Then there's the wrap up. We're going to finish up this encounter or this event or this scene in some way. And then finally, step 8, and this is really, really important, is to remember to advance the other event that the PCs chose not to engage with. And you, as the dungeon master or game master, you can decide if their non engagement with it is going to be either positive or negative, but it should advance. All right, so anytime that the players choose to go in a different direction, what you had planned is still going on, all right, in their absence and without their impacting it in that moment. So that's another thing that you're going to think about. So let me show you how quickly we can do this. I'm going to switch views again. So I am using 100 treasure troves, treasure type 1 for Castles and Crusades. This is by James Mishler, and it's just a D100 roll. I'm going to show you how quickly this can be used, and see what I can put together based on the roll that I did. So I rolled a 36. So I am going to go here and 36. A fine horn chased with silver inlay depicting a lion hunt. 150 gold pieces. And it contains 77 gold pieces. So the players are going down this pathway, and let's say it's an alleyway, and they come across a wrapped cloth. All right, and it's kind of tucked in a corner behind one of those rain barrels, and they just happened to notice it as they were going by, and so they unwrap this package, and they come across this fine horn chased with silver inlay depicting a lion hunt. All right, and let's say the thief is appraising this thing real quick, and he said, "Hey, you know what? This is really something that's quite valuable." All right, and then inside the horn, there's 77 gold pieces packed into there as well. This must belong to somebody. Does anybody recognize this scene on here? Maybe there's a more significant reward for this to be returned. Maybe there's some other signs in this alleyway for us to observe and look. Maybe the magic user is going to cast a light spell, all right, and illuminate the area to see if there's any other additional signs in there. Maybe the wrapping, now that they have a light source burning here, maybe the wrapping that the horn was wrapped in has the initials of someone or some organization written on it. All right. And so now they'll start talking amongst themselves, and and they'll say, "Hey, does anybody recognize this? Have we heard anything about it? Um, let's go ask somebody. Maybe the local shopkeeper will have something that they can, he or she can tell us what this is all about." And go to the shopkeeper now. So now you have that movement component, right? Their challenge that they're being faced in is that they have somewhat of a mystery to be solved here. Who owned this horn, or what does the horn actually depict in its engraved scenery on it? And also they'll be interested to find out what the horn is possibly appraised for. They're going to pocket the 77 gold pieces. That's a totally separate thing. But they're engaged now. They're looking to find something else about this particular horn. They have a challenge, all right, in making that discovery, and trying to find out more about this. Now, let's say they they find out that this horn is from the local Hunters Guild. And so they're going to go to the local Hunters Guild to see if there's some information that they can glean about the horn, if maybe there's a reward to be gleaned about, to be gained from turning in the horn, that might even exceed the actual value of the horn itself. They they now travel again to the Hunters Guild, and in the Hunters Guild, they find out that the horn belonged to a particular hunter who has been missing for a couple of days. So now they have another layer and another mystery to unravel here. Well, what happened to that hunter? And you're going to just keep on building and building and building as the players take their characters, and possibly they go into different directions and they start looking into, one part of the party goes to the home of the hunter. Maybe they discover there that the home has been ransacked, and obvious signs of struggle. Maybe there are some indicators. Maybe there was a dead robber uh, whose body they find in that location, and maybe that particular person has significant appearance identifiers, right? So it's not just it's a half orc with only one ear. All right, yeah, one of the ears has been cut off. All right, so something really, really descriptive. Now they go to the local constable, and they say, "Hey, we found the body. There's a missing person. We're investigating this for the Hunters Guild, and you know, one of these individuals, that we came across was a half orc with a missing ear, and there's a wanted poster on the thing, and that half orc is a known member of the Thieves Guild." And so it just continues to roll through. Meanwhile, your original planned scene or encounter is still following along its trajectory. What you've done here is I'm going to switch views here. What you've done here is you've still created a enjoyable, meaningful session. All right. The players, through their characters, have learned a little bit more about their setting. Um, they've learned a little bit more about their capabilities as a group, and they feel that, and this is the players now, the players feel that they have actually had more input in the game session in that moment than if they were just following your plan, your planned event. Now, when everything is said and done, after they've discovered the whole mystery around the missing hunter and they've received, their reward for having done so, hopefully the players be, hey, you know what? Our characters are now going to think about going back to that original, and now that has changed. All right. Maybe what they were looking to investigate there was no longer there. The group that they were looking to encounter there has picked up and left, right? And now they have a new mystery to follow along, or they'll have a new challenge that they have to face because they let that thing fester for longer than what they originally planned on allowing to happen. So there could be a real negative because they've gone on this side quest. But it's all about making the world feel like it's a living, breathing place. It's about letting the players have that agency over their characters to do whatever they're really looking to do, but tying consequences to their actions or their inactions, and sometimes there might be benefits as well. So not all results of inaction have to be negative. Sometimes there could be positives that have come along. This whole side quest might have been something that positively impacted the original planned event for the player characters that the DM had in mind. So don't be nervous about having to improvise. It does not have to be all that complex, as long as you just let the players know, all right, I'm going to need a few moments to kind of piece this thing together. You saw how quickly I put this together, right? Just off the top of my head. Um, I am not the most brilliant person on the planet. It's not like you need to be um, supremely intelligent to do this kind of a thing. It's just practice and a willingness to improvise. It's a willingness to make snap decisions. It's a willingness to allow the players to make choices of their own. And it's a willingness to then hit them with a positive, or negative consequence for their inactions. And I think that you'll see that you become more comfortable with this, and that you're not going to feel, and your players aren't going to feel like your game session is kind of locked in to a particular planned event, that there is flexibility in that. And I think both you and your players are going to appreciate that, in the long term. You're going to appreciate the fact that your world really does feel like a living, breathing place. And that, in my mind, is really what the objective should be. When you're creating a campaign setting, or just a campaign in general, it is not necessarily just a string of events that are connected to each other. It's a it's a string of experiences that take place for the player characters. So you know, disconnected events are still part of the same campaign. And sometimes they're going to end up being improvised on the spot, and that's perfectly fine. And I think that you'll actually find that generating these things on the fly actually becomes more fun to a certain extent, and it might take your planned it might take your planned scenario in a different direction that you even think to yourself, hey, that's a better way to go with this. I have certainly sat there and planned out a particular event, and through my players' choices and actions, I was like, all right, I have to change this up a little bit in order for it to match up with what they've done so far. And snap, it's like, or here's a better idea now. All right, and I can just throw that in at this point, and now it'll make sense. All right, or now it'll be connected directly to what they just chose to do. So improvising, like I said, whether it's an art or not, we can debate that. It is certainly something that you will grow comfortable with over time, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time, especially if you go into it with the right mindset of thinking that the players are not actively working against what I planned. The players are doing what their characters are being role played to do, and that's where the flexibility requirement kind of comes in for you as a game master, because that really is mastering the game. It's being able to improvise is a level of mastery that you can grasp fairly quickly. Again, I'm not saying that this is something that takes years to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And thank you for your patience. I've been away from making videos for the last couple of days. I know I did a recap, yesterday, I guess, or well, actually Wednesday I did a recap of my Tuesday game, but I was working this past 4 days, and 12-hour days, so it was kind of hard to get to the screen here and to put out some content for the channel. Tonight I have a live stream where I'm going to go over some Kickstarters and talk in general about the OSR and what's been going on this past week and a half or so within our circle of content creators and YouTube channels, and but primarily I'm going to be focusing on several Kickstarters that I intend to back, and some of them were supposed to launch today, so I'll see at what time today they do launch. So I'm hoping they launch actually before 7 p.m., which is the time. 7 p.m. Eastern time is when I'm doing my live stream. So I look forward to seeing you in there at the time. And as always, thanks for joining. If you hadn't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Leave your questions and comments in there. If you want to, chime in about some of the points that I made during this video, I welcome, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, join right in. And, as always, I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. Enjoy your upcoming weekend, and, keep on playing the games and keep on enjoying yourselves. And as always, I look forward to seeing you at a gaming table at a convention sometime soon. We're just about into convention season, at least for me, in 14 days. I am going to be running Weird Frontiers at ShireCon in Connecticut the 15th. And then the 16th is I'll be playing in some games. And I'll talk a little bit about ShireCon in a later video, probably, if not today, probably tomorrow. I'll talk about ShireCon and show you how my plans for that are coming along. So have a great day. Thanks for joining.